things that you emphasize when you teach secretarial courses?
Well, let's see. You're just beginning to learn about secretarial work, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Well, I'll try to point out basic ideas then. Notice, for example, that Joan is the first to arrive. There's no one standing over her telling her what to do. Her boss has little time to supervise her work or to remind her of what has to be done. It's Joan who has to remind her boss of things he has to do. Now, each morning, Joan types a memorandum card for him, listing his appointments for the day. She takes the card into his office so he'll be sure to see it when he arrives. She also checks her boss's calendar and adds any other notes that should be included on his schedule. Joan checks his dictation machine to see if he did any dictation the evening before. She'll take the used belt and the notation slip that goes with it to make the transcription in her office.
Is that a transcribing machine on her desk?
Yes, it's one of several types in common use. Joan has become quite skilled in using this machine. Now, notice how she handles the telephone.
Good morning, Mr. Kiefer's office. Mrs. Carroll speaking.
She's developed a pleasant telephone manner, and that creates a favorable impression for her employer.
Oh, yes, certainly. I'm sorry Mr. Kiefer is not in the office at the moment. May I take a message for him?
Friendly, yet efficient.
Yes, Mr. Kramer. I'll change your appointment to 10 o'clock this morning. If Mr. Kiefer can't make it for any reason, I'll call you back.
She uses good judgment in rescheduling the appointment.
She seems confident.
She knows from experience how Mr. Kiefer likes his appointments arranged. Mr. Kiefer, in turn, knows that he can depend on Joan. When he gives her a report to have typed, he knows that she'll read it through carefully and correct data, punctuation, and grammar before having it typed. A secretary often directs the work of other employees. This requires tact and an honest liking for people.
Is this girl a secretary, too?
Sally Anderson is a beginning secretary. Part of her time is spent on routine typing, but she also types letters and assumes other secretarial responsibilities. Another of Joan's responsibilities is the mail.
What does this involve?
First, she sorts the mail. Correspondence, bills and statements, advertisements and circulars, newspapers and periodicals. She puts the personal letters, which Mr. Kiefer will want to open himself, to one side. She opens the remaining correspondence for him.
That seems simple enough.
There's more. She dates the mail. In some offices, this is done in the mailroom. She also checks to see if any enclosures are missing. Lists material due under separate cover in the incoming mail register. Attaches related correspondence to letters for Mr. Kiefer's reference. And reroutes mail requiring the attention of other people in the office. Joan takes care of routine inquiries herself. Joan has learned to handle these duties efficiently so that she remains calm and gracious when greeting visitors.
Hello, I'm Ray Kramer.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Kramer. Mr. Kiefer is expecting you.
Well, I hope the change didn't cause any inconvenience.
Oh, certainly not. Mr. Kiefer, this is Mr. Kramer.
Mr. Kramer, nice to see you, sir.
I appreciate your being able to see me this morning, Mr. Kiefer.
That's perfectly all right. How was your trip in?
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
Good. Won't you sit down, please?
Now back to the inquiry Joan was preparing to answer. To take on this responsibility, Joan has had to learn a lot about her employer's work. And she has had to develop skills in writing business letters.
Are many secretaries capable of this?
Certainly. If a girl's really interested in her employer's business, and if she's willing to work to develop new skills, there's virtually no limit to the duties she can assume. Sally takes over at Joan's desk when Joan goes to lunch.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kiefer's office. No, this is Miss Anderson. Mrs. Carroll's out for lunch right now. May I help you?
Sally is taking on the responsibilities of a secretary. But while she's eager to prove herself, she remembers that she's still new at the job. She doesn't overstep her authority.
I see. I'm sorry. I'm unable to give you that information. However, I will give your message to Mrs. Carroll when she returns. That's right. Fine. I'll have her call you as soon as she gets back. May I have your number again, please?
After lunch, Mr. Kiefer usually does his dictating. Joan is highly skilled at taking dictation and transcribing shorthand notes. Another skill a secretary must develop is handling interruptions as part of the routine.
What's she doing?
Getting out a marketing report for one of her company's salesmen.
Now what?
A purchase requisition for Joan to sign.
Is that her responsibility?
Yes, and Joan's earned it through years of dependable handling of her employer's business. Another responsibility Joan has is making travel arrangements for Mr. Kiefer when he goes on a business trip. She must arrange for a place to stay and for transportation. A secretary may handle this herself, or through a company traffic department, or through a travel agency. Joan must plan his schedule to get him from city to city with enough time for a good night's rest so that he'll be ready to make decisions. She fits in appointments with people he wishes to see and types an itinerary for the trip. She also prepares reports he will need and reminds him of questions he wishes to have answered.
Well, have we finished our day now?
Most of the girls have. But Joan is not bound by the clock. There are a few things yet to be done. Letters to be mailed. Appointments to be noted for the following morning. And a card to prepare, congratulating Mr. Kiefer on his 25th anniversary.
Is this important?
Well, it's just one of the countless little things that reflect Joan's attitude toward her job. Joan thoroughly enjoys the work she does. That's why she gives extra effort to detail.